Behind every great board game, there is a mechanism. But behind every great mechanism, there is a story. Welcome to the Periodic Table of Components, the podcast where we unpack the history, science, and secrets hidden inside your favorite tabletop games. I'm your host, Greg, and today we are setting up a table for a game that takes us deep into the world of Marrakesh. Marrakesh is a board game where 1 to 4 players will be competing for the title of Grand Mufti by scoring the most victory points after 3 seasons. We'll find out if the mechanisms in the game actually bring the theme to the players around the table. Marrakesh is a Euro-style game designed by Stefan Feld and published by Queen Games in 2022. Patricia Limburger and Franz Vollwinkel provided their talents for the art. Marrakesh plays 2 to 4 players, but can be played solo with the Camel and Nomads expansion. The average time to play is 120 minutes and is recommended for those 14 years of age or older. The average weight, according to Board Game Geek users, is 3.45. Common mechanisms found within this game are simultaneous action selection, open drafting, in-game bonuses, and a utilization of a cube tower. Here's a description of the game from the publisher via Board Game Geek. Compete with other influential families in the city to achieve the most honorable titles through the skillful use of assistants and resources at your disposal. The player who succeeds in doing this best becomes the new Obermufti of Marrakesh. Marrakesh is played over 3 rounds, with each round consisting of 4 turns. On each turn, players simultaneously and secretly choose 3 colored cylinders from behind their screen. Then, in turn order, they place matching colored assistants on their player board. These will be the actions they will perform later. Then all the cylinders are placed in the cube tower. The cube tower randomizes which cylinders are available this round, with some getting stuck and some from previous rounds coming out. In turn order, players are going to select a color and take 1 to 2 of the cylinders that have passed through the tower, or any of those that were stuck from a previous round but have now emerged, and place them on their player boards. These cylinders will enhance future actions taken in the same color in future rounds. Then, in turn order, players will activate the regions where they have placed an assistant. Actions allow players to gain wealth, which can be traded for influence in the city. Performing various actions also earns bonuses and enhances actions even more as the game proceeds. The player who scores the most points by the end of the game wins. Alright, so there we have it. That's the basic description of Marrakesh for you. Today we're going to start off by looking at a general overview of the gameplay. Then we'll dive into the actual history of the city of Marrakesh, followed by a deep dive of the components, game rules, and the mechanisms. Lastly, we'll come to the final verdict if the theme actually comes through the mechanisms of the game by placing it on our thematic scale. So sit back, everybody, relax, and let's enjoy the story of Stefan Feld's Marrakesh together. Welcome to the game breakdown. This is where you will get a general overview of the game, and then followed, we're going to dive deep into the history of Marrakesh. If you haven't played the game Marrakesh before, that's not a problem. You don't need to worry. You don't need to know the rules to enjoy the history, first of all, but let's hope by the end of this podcast you'll have a better understanding of how it plays. At its core, this game is about gaining the most victory points by managing your resources, along with cleverly planning the 3 actions you want to perform each round to spread influence across Marrakesh better than your opponents. Players are simultaneously choosing their 3 actions for the round while not knowing what their opponents are going to choose. These action cubes, calling caches, and from here on out we'll call them caches most likely. This is a term made up by the designer to emulate the word Marrakesh. So yes, the action cubes are called caches. These will be drafted after dropping them through the cube tower, and you will need to need to perform the right actions and spend your resources wisely to move up tracks. You're going to be fulfilling contracts and hopefully outwit your opponents. This game is beloved for its action selection mechanism coupled with a cube tower, but beneath the colorful pieces and the fate of the Katubi Mosque lies in our topic for today, the history of Marrakesh. Then the game rules, the mechanisms, and finally the final verdict on the thematic scale. Let's start with the fascinating history of Marrakesh. Alright, let's step foot on the streets of Marrakesh in the year 1085. The year is 1085. The bustling streets of Marrakesh are not paved with gold, but with dirt, sweat, and ambition. To the powerful, a merchant is merely a source of tax. To the powerful, you are just a vendor of luxury goods. But you intend to become indispensable. You don't carry a sword, but your weapons are far sharper. Rolls of prized Andalusian silk, rare ink, and the finest leather from the Sahara. To survive the cutthroat court of the Almoravids, you must master two entirely different worlds. By morning, you must bow low before the strict, scholarly imam at the local mosque, presenting valuable scrolls to win his blessing and public favor. By evening, you must whisper in the ear of a scheming courtier at the palace, offering exclusive luxuries to secure royal trading monopolies. One wrong word to the imam and you are branded a sinner. One misstep with a courtier and you lose everything. This is a story of whispers, wealth, and survival in ancient Morocco. Marrakesh is the fourth largest city in Morocco. It is one of the four imperial cities of Morocco and is the capital of the Marrakesh-Safi region. The city lies west of the foothills of the Atlas Mountains. The Marrakesh area was inhabited by Berber farmers from Neolithic times, and numerous stone implements have been unearthed in the area. The city was founded circa 1070 by Abu Bakr ibn Umar as the capital of the Almoravid dynasty. The Almoravids established the first major structures in the city and shaped its layout for centuries to come. The red walls of the city, built by Ali ibn Yusuf in 1122 to 1123, and various buildings constructed in red sandstone afterwards, have given the city the nickname of the Red City or the Ochre City. Marrakesh grew rapidly and established itself as a cultural, religious, and trading center. The Almoravids, a Berber dynasty seeking to reform Islamic society, ruled an emirate stretching from the edge of Senegal to the center of Spain and from the Atlantic coast to Algiers. They used Marrakesh as their capital and established its first structures, including a mosque and a fortified residence, the Qasr al-Hashar, near the present-day Kutubiyya Mosque. These Almoravid foundations also influenced the layout and urban organization of the city for centuries to come. For example, the present-day Jama' al-Fana originated from a public square in front of the Almoravid palace gates. The Rabat al-Qasr and the major souks of the city developed roughly in the area between the square and the city's main mosque, where they remain today. The city developed the community into a trading center for the Maghreb and sub-Saharan Africa. It grew rapidly and established itself as a cultural and religious center, supplanting Agmat, which had long been the capital of Haouz. Andalusi craftsmen from Cordoba and Seville built and decorated numerous monuments importing the Cordoban Umayyad style characterized by carved domes and cusped arches. This Andalusian influence merged with designs from the Sahara and West Africa, creating a unique style of architecture which was fully adapted to the Marrakesh environment. Yusuf ibn Tashfin built houses, minted coins, and brought gold and silver to the city in caravans. His son and successor, Ali ibn Yusuf, built the Ben Yusuf Mosque, the city's main mosque, between 1120 and 1132. He also fortified the city with city walls for the first time in 1126 to 1127, and expanded its water supply by creating the underground water system known as the Qattara. After a period of decline, Marrakesh regained its status in the early 16th century as the capital of the Saadian dynasty, with Sultans Abdallah al-Ghalib and Ahmad al-Mansur embellishing the city with an array of sumptuous monuments beginning in the 17th century. The city became popular among Sufi pilgrims for its 7 patron saints who are buried here. In 1912, the French protectorate in Morocco was established, and Thami al-Galoui became Pasha of Marrakesh and generally held this position until the independence of Morocco and the re-establishment of the monarchy in 1956. Marrakesh comprises an old fortified city packed with vendors and their stalls. This Medina Quarter is a UNESCO World Heritage Site and contains the Jimma el-Fana Square, a large number of souks, and the Kutubiyya Mosque, and many other historic and cultural sites. From medieval times until around the beginning of the 20th century, the entire country of Morocco was known as the Kingdom of Marrakesh, as the kingdom's historic capital city was often Marrakesh. The name for Morocco is still Marrakesh to this day in Persian and Urdu, as well as many other South Asian languages. That's the general overview of the history of Morocco. We're going to dive into some of the aspects of the game that mirror these historical aspects. I'm going to be naming some familiar places that I mentioned in the previous summary, and I'm going to kind of tell you how they are implemented into the game by Stefan Feld. First up, we're going to talk about that Kutubiyya Mosque. The Cube Tower is designed to resemble the Kutubiyya Mosque, which is the largest mosque in Marrakesh, Morocco. It is located in the southwest Medina Quarter of Marrakesh near the Jimma al-Fana marketplace and is flanked by large gardens. The mosque was founded in 1147 by the Almohad Caliph Abd al-Mumin right after he conquered Marrakesh from the Almoravids. A second version of the mosque was entirely rebuilt by Abd al-Mumin around 1158, with Yaqub al-Mansur possibly finalizing construction of the minaret around 1195. This second mosque is the structure that stands today. Additionally, in regards to the Kutubiyya Mosque, players will be moving their student pawn, ascending the staircase of this mosque depicted on the main game board. You'll be using the influence of your clerics, and their student pawn will be striving to gain the ultimate influence of the Imam. Next up is the Bahia Palace. It is on the game board for Marrakesh, and then players will be ascending the steps of the Bahia Palace to gain ultimate influence with the courtier using the assistance of their nobles. The Bahia Palace is a mid to late 19th century palace in Marrakesh, Morocco. The palace was first begun by Si Musa, Grand Vizier, under the Alawi Sultan Muhammad ibn Abd al-Rahman in the 1860s. It was expanded by his son Si Ba Ahmed ibn Musa, Grand Vizier of Sultan Moulay Abdelaziz, between 1894 and 1900. Today, it is a well-known historic monument and tourist attraction in the city. The palace has an irregular layout comprising around 150 rooms, organized around multiple internal courtyards and riad gardens. It is most notable for its decoration, particularly its painted wood ceilings along with sculpted stucco and zalij tile work. The original grounds of the palace also encompassed a wide area with gardens, parks, stables, a mosque, and other annexes. Next is the madrasa. Players will be using the wisdom of their scholars to gain valuable knowledge that will enhance their influence around the city of Marrakesh on the madrasa. In North African history, the concept of capturing scholarly wisdom on valuable scrolls and manuscripts is rooted in a deeply regulated intellectual tradition. The role of the ulama in historical Morocco manuscript production was heavily overseen by the ulama, a body of Muslim legal scholars. They ensured that texts strictly adhered to religious and intellectual standards. Market oversight, even the physical production was monitored. Market inspectors, known as the mutasib, routinely checked public markets to guarantee the quality of the ink, paper, and handwriting of these scrolls. Institutions like the Al-Qarawiyyan Library in Fez, which was founded in 859 CE, and the National Library of the Kingdom of Morocco preserved tens of thousands of these ancient texts. They span topics from Islamic law to mathematics and astronomy. Next up in Marrakesh are the souks, or also known as markets. As players gain valuable goods such as carpets, lamps, and spices, they will make their way to the souks to haggle for valuable resources. If they show up with plenty of goods, they may leave with luxury goods such as slippers, tagine, daggers, oil lamps, or necklaces. The souks of Marrakesh trace their origins back to the 11th century founding of the city by the Almoravid dynasty. Sitting at the crossroads of trans-Saharan trade routes, these vibrant markets emerged as vital hubs where traveling merchants exchanged salt, gold, and textiles. The development and layout of these historic markets reflect centuries of North African commercial traditions. Originating in the medieval era, the souks are traditionally organized by craft. Entire alleyways and neighborhoods were established for specific trades, such as metalworkers, dyers, and spice merchants. Historically, the most valuable commodities like gold, spices, and perfumes were placed closest to the city center and the main square, Jama' el-Fana, while less expensive, bulkier goods radiated outward towards the city gates. To accommodate visiting nomadic caravans and merchants, traders used roadside inns and warehouses called fandouks. Many of these historic courtyard buildings are still scattered throughout the Medina today. The guild-like organization and labyrinth architecture remain largely intact, which contributed to the entire Marrakesh Medina being named a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1985. Within these souks, we discuss luxury goods. Marrakesh's historic luxury goods are masterfully crafted treasures shaped by centuries of Berber, Arabic, and Andalusian influences. These artisanal staples, including intricate metalwork, hand-woven Berber carpets, traditional leather babuche slippers, the bespoke kaftans, and ceramics, are heavily concentrated within the ancient maze of the city's Medina. Additionally, in the game of Marrakesh, there is the Jama' el-Fana. We've mentioned it a couple times already. It was established around 1070 AD. Jama' el-Fana is a square and a marketplace in the Medina quarter of Marrakesh, Morocco. It remains the main square of Marrakesh used by locals and tourists. As players are going to hire entertainers, they'll use the influence of valuable spectators to improve their influence around the market square. Archaeological and early historical evidence points to a raised platform used for public executions, which gives the space its literal translation to some sources. In addition to its old role as a place of public executions, it was also the site of a traditional Friday market, a stage for the performance of fantasias and the setting of public entertainment in the evenings, much as it is today. It has been expanded during the Almohad dynasty in the 12th century The space was transformed into an organized market and justice courtyard, acting as a critical commercial intersection for trans-Saharan trade routes. Next up are the oases. These are displayed on the player boards within the game Marrakesh. As players explore the Sahara with their caravans, they may come upon valuable oases which can provide valuable in-game points. In ecology, an oasis is a fertile area of a desert or semi-desert environment that sustains plant life and provides habitat for animals. Surface water may be present, or water may only be accessible from wells or underground channels created by humans. In geography, an oasis may be a current or past rest stop on a transportation route, or a less than verdant location that nonetheless provides access to underground water through deep wells created and maintained by humans. Although they depend on a natural condition, such as the presence of water that may be stored in reservoirs and used for irrigation, most oases as we know them are artificial. Along the top of the board, there is the Tinsift River. In Marrakesh, you will have to assist your fishermen down the Tinsift River while leaving others behind. Only the most prestigious fishermen will gain the benefits of the river at the end of the season. The Tinsift River is a river in central Morocco. It originates in the eastern High Atlas, receiving water from many tributaries in the region. It passes close to the city of Marrakesh and has its outlet into the Atlantic Ocean at the ancient fortress of Sori Kadima, around 40 kilometers south from Safi. Its water discharge changes according to rainfall. It is one of the 10 major rivers of Morocco, but frequently can be waded through even close to its outlet. As you traverse the Pearl of the South, you will see sights resembling the beauty of the historical Agdal and Menara Gardens. The Agdal Gardens are a large area of historic gardens and orchards in Marrakesh, Morocco. The gardens are located to the south of the city's historic Kashba and its royal palace. Together with the Medina of Marrakesh and the Menara Gardens, the Agdal Gardens were listed by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site in 1985. The gardens contain several historic water reservoirs, as well as several historic palaces and pavilions, including the Dar el Hana and the Dar al Baida. The Menara Gardens are a historic public garden and orchard in the Marrakesh, Morocco. They were established in the 12th century by the Almohad Caliphate ruler Abd al-Mumin. The gardens are laid out around a central water basin and reservoir, next to which is a pleasure pavilion dating in its current form from the 19th century. The reservoir and its pavilion, often framed in the pictures against the background of the High Atlas Mountains to the south, are considered one of the iconic views and symbols of Marrakesh. Alright, now that we know the incredible history that inspired this world of the Marrakesh board game, it's time to see if it actually holds up in practice to these facts that we have now learned about the history. Let's drop the history books for a second and get our hands a little dirty. How does this game actually play? You're going to find out here in our next segment. Alright, we've reached the point in the podcast where we are going to dive deep into the rules of the game. Some of this information I've mentioned before, and a lot of it will be new information to you. But how this is going to work is we'll give an overview and concept of the game. We'll get into the components and specifics of certain gameplay aspects. So sit back, relax, let's dive deep into the rules of Marrakesh. There's a lot to be done in Marrakesh. You're going to use your assistants to increase your influence in the Kadubia Mosque and in the Bahia Palace. Profit from the wisdom of the scholars captured on valuable scrolls. Roam the souks to haggle with the merchants over precious luxury goods. Go to the marketplace, Jama el Fana, with its water vendors, storytellers, snake charmers, and jugglers. You're going to find oases in the Sahara and navigate the Tensift River. But overall, don't forget to pay the people and provide sufficient dates and most of all, water. This city in southwestern Morocco, known as the Pearl of the South, was founded in the year 1070 AD and is one of the country's 4 royal cities. The country's name can be derived directly from the city's name, Marrakesh. The historic center, the Agdal Gardens and the Minar Gardens, were listed by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site in 1985. Let's get into the game concepts. Marrakesh is played over 3 seasons, as stated before, with 4 rounds each. At the beginning of each round, you will choose which of these 3 sectors of your playing board you will activate this round by deploying your assistants there. This will also determine which Keshis will be available this round, which are directed by players in order to augment the actions in different sectors, but do not determine which actions you take this round. 1 Keshi, matching the color of each district with an assistant, is tossed into the tower, and all that come through the tower will be selected by the players. At the end of each season, you must provide dinars, water, and dates for the inhabitants of your sectors. Also, your fishermen may grant you valuable bonuses. The player who collects the most points over 3 seasons is the winner of the game. Next, we're going to get into the components, the namesake of this podcast. This is going to be a deeper dive than usual into the components of the game. We're going to discuss how they actually integrate into the mechanics of the game as we go through the components. Just a note that I do have the deluxe version, so I'm going to be discussing the components of the deluxe version of Marrakesh rather than the retail version. First up on the component list is the game board. On this game board, you'll find a score tracker around the perimeter of the board. It's numbered 0 through 100. On this game board, you'll see the Tensift River track across the top of the board. It's broken into 12 segments. Players will be moving along the river when they activate the Fisherman action, allowing them to receive end-of-round and end-of-season bonuses. At the end of the season, with players who are farthest along the track will receive bonuses depending on the specific river tile for that season. Next are 4 Medina workshops below the Tensift River. Each of these 4 workshops will house 8 each of randomly assigned city gates of different colors that players can purchase via the Medina action, which will provide them with a bonus Keshi and earn them points. Next on the board is the Madrasa. These are scroll tile spaces along the left of the board. There will be 12 stacks of scroll tiles of different colors that players can fulfill with the Madrasa action if they have the needed amount of scholar Keshis and date resources. These tiles offer variable bonuses that can be instant benefits or ongoing abilities. Also, you'll find the souk, which has stack of 3 exchange office tiles, 1 for each season. You'll use these to exchange goods for the goods Keshis for resources, depending on randomly drawn tiles at the beginning of the game. Also in the souk are 5 stacks of luxury good tiles. Players can spend their goods Keshis for different luxury goods that offer a variable amount of points and resources. Also on the game board, we have the Palace Staircase, which is the white track. It's located in the center of the board where players can move their Sultan Courtier pawn up the track by taking the palace action with their noble Keshis. Right beside that is the Mosque Staircase, the black track. It's located in the center of the board where players can move their Imam student pawn up the track by taking the Mosque action with their Cleric Keshis. Between those staircases is the connection bonus area. It's located between the palace and mosque staircases in the center of the board. As players move their pawns up the staircases, they will receive connection bonuses as they cross the different segments of each staircase. So that finishes up the game board itself. The next component we are going to discuss is the infamous cube tower. The cube tower is designed to resemble the architectural style of traditional Moroccan minarets, specifically evoking the famous square towers found across the city of Marrakesh, such as the iconic Koutoubia Mosque. Players drop their wooden keshis, people or assistant tokens, into the top of the minaret, where shells and ledges inside intentionally trap a small percentage of the tokens so they can fall out in future rounds. Next component is attached to the bottom of that cube tower. It's the base itself. As the keshis come out of the cube tower, players will sort the keshis according to their color at the base, and the base has a grid of 12 keshi colors. This will make for smoother gameplay while players are claiming keshis before they use their assistants. Next up are the 4-player boards. There's one in each color. The 4 colors are blue, red, yellow, and green. 9 sectors that are associated with keshi action colors with slots to place your assistants and keshis. So your player boards are actually quite large compared to other games. This is going to hold 9 different sectors, and this is where you're actually putting your player pawns, and there are little slots that fit the keshis as you draft those from the base of the cube tower. So I'll describe the player boards to you. This will kind of help you make sense of the actions in the game. We're going to start from the bottom left of the player boards and going clockwise, eventually ending in the center. At the bottom left of the player board is the date orchard, which is colored green associated with the green keshis. Activating the date orchard sector will allow players to collect date resources depending on the number of date picker keshis there. Next is the brown area, which is the Sahara. Activating the Sahara sector allows players to discover oases with their caravan keshis and claim oases tiles by paying resources. These oases tiles provide variable in-game scoring for the players. Next is the blue area, which is the river area of the player board. Activating the river sector allows players to move their fisherman pawn on the game board river track 1 step for each fish keshi on their player board. Players can boost this movement 1 step for each water resource spent. Next is the souk area, which contains 3 sub-areas, which are yellow, purple, and orange. These are your 3 types of goods. So activating the souk sector allows players to use the main board exchange office tiles and or purchase those luxury good tiles, depending on how many assistants they have used and goods available to spend. The main square on the player board, the Jima El Fana, which is pink. Activating the main square sector allows players to rotate an audience disc. It rotates clockwise, and players will receive variable bonuses depending on the sector and the number of spectators located in that sector. Players must have previously deployed an entertainer keshi to this spot prior to activating it. Next up, towards the center of the board, is the mosque staircase, which is the black area of the board. Activating the mosque sector allows players to move their student pawn 1 space upwards for each cleric keshi they have on their player board. The player will choose a connection bonus if they cross into a new segment in addition to 1 dinar. Next is the palace staircase, which is the white area. Activating the palace sector allows players to move their courtier pawn 1 space upwards for each noble keshi they have on their player board. The player will choose a connection bonus if they cross into a new segment in addition to 1 dinar. Next is the madrasa the gray area of the player board. Activating the Madrasa sector allows players to acquire scrolls from the main board Madrasa section. This will require players to have a certain amount of scholar keshis and spend dates, providing the player with an instant one-time benefit or ongoing ability. The last area found on the player board is the Medina, and it is colored beige. And it kind of is located within the center, and it intersects all other sections. So activating the Medina sector allows players to purchase colored city gates from the main board workshops. This will provide players with a bonus keshi of the gate's color and provide victory points. Players must have had deployed guard keshis to the watchtower on their player boards prior to purchasing city gates. Next component on the list are 4 supply boards, 1 per player. Players are going to be putting this above their player board. There's 2 sectors. There's a left and a right. The left sector provides a storage space for players to store their resources, which are water, dates, and dinar. The right sector provides a slot for players to put their claimed oases tiles with some spaces giving immediate benefits. Above the supply board will store 3 provision tiles, which will dictate what resources players will have to pay at the end of each season to prevent from losing resources and points. Players will also be receiving 4 screens in their color. There's 1 in each color, and they are used to hide the players' available keshis. So like I said before, at the beginning of each round, people are going to be simultaneously picking 3 of these, but the other players don't know what you're going to pick because they are hidden behind your player board. Also on these screens, behind their player screens. Also on below, behind these screens are gameplay reminders. Wow. You get the gist of that. There are gameplay reminders on the back of the 4 screens, and they're used to hide the players' keshis. Next up, we're going to talk about the player pawns. There are 24 of them. There's 6 in each color. 3 of them are assistants. 1 is your imam student, and 1 is the sultan courtier, and 1 is a fisherman. The 3 assistants you're going to use to activate sectors of the player boards. These will be assigned to the associated keshi or sector color chosen during the select keshi and deploy assistant phase. The imam student is going to track the player's progress on the mosque, which is the black track, on the main board and activate connection bonuses. Also similar to that one is the Sultan Courtier. It's used to track the player's progress on the palace track, which is white on the main board, and activate the connection bonuses when it passes a segment. Lastly, there's a fisherman, and it is placed on the river. It is used to track the player's progress on the river track on the main board, allowing players to claim end of round or season bonuses. There are 4 scoring markers, 1 in each color. You're going to use these to track your victory points around the perimeter of the board, and players are going to start with 10 victory points. There are also 4 scoring tiles, 1 in each color. So if a player surpasses 100 points, you can use these tiles to mark that. There's also a 200 side. There are 4 audience disc tiles, 1 for each player. These are what are going to sit on the pink portion of your player board. They're used on the player's board in the main square sector, and then you're going to rotate this disc when you activate the main square sector to gain bonuses with an entertainer present multiplied by the number of spectators on the disc. Also, those discs are double-sided. On the backside it is purple, and those are used for expansion content. Next up, we have 32 city gates. There are 2 each of these, and these colors are the exact same colors of the keshis. So you'll have 2 purple, orange, yellow, and beige city gates, and 3 each of green, gray, white, black, pink, turquoise, brown, and red. 8 city gates are randomly stored in each Medina workshop, allowing players to purchase these with a Medina action. These will provide a bonus Keshi and victory points when placed on their associated space on the player's board. Let's get into the weeds of the 300 Keshis in the game, and there's 25 in each color. And as I go through these Keshis, I'm going to briefly describe what they do within the game. Like I stated before, Keshi is the fictional term given to the cylindrical wooden pieces used to represent the different family members, workers, and areas of influence within the game. First up, we have the green Keshi, which are called date pickers. They provide 1 point when they're deployed to your player board and provide dates when activating your date orchard. The gray Keshis are called scholars. They allow players to acquire scrolls when activating the madrasa. Your white Keshis are your nobles. They allow players to move their courtier pawn on the palace staircase track. The black Keshis are your clerics. They allow players to move their student pawn on the mosque staircase track. The pink Keshis are your entertainers. They allow players to activate bonuses when deployed and when activating the main square spectator disc. The turquoise are your fish, and they allow players to move their fisherman pawn on the river track when activating the river action. The beige Keshis are your guards. They're placed onto the watchtower when deployed, and they allow players to purchase the city gates from the Medina workshop when activating the Medina action. Your brown Keshis are your caravans. They reveal the oasis tiles when deployed and allow players to claim oasis tiles when activating the Sahara action. Lastly, we have the red Keshis, which are water vendors. Essentially, these act as a wild. They're the only Keshi not associated with a specific action or sector. These act as wilds when determining assistant placement and are deployed to specific water vendor slots in one of the player board sectors. These will provide water resources when players activate the associated sector. Let's talk about the goods Keshis. There's 3 of them. They're used to gain resources at the exchange office and purchase luxury goods at the souk. They are purple, yellow, and orange. Purple are carpet, yellow represent lamps, and the orange Keshis represent spices. Players are going to simultaneously pick the 3 Keshis of their choice at the beginning of the round. This determines the sectors their assistants will activate on their player boards. Additionally, all Keshis are dropped in the cube tower after players have revealed their choices. Players will then open draft these to deploy them to the associated sector on their player board, gaining any deployment bonuses if applicable. So just to clarify some things on these, so you're choosing the Keshi colors for the actions you want to take with your assistants, but once these Keshis are dropped into the tower, you don't necessarily pick the same Keshi colors that you dropped. It will depend on the exact assistant placement of the action you will be taking. Next on the component list are 120 resources. We have 40 water, 40 dates, and 40 dinars. The water, it can be earned in multiple ways, such as activating your water vendor Keshis, exchanging goods, buying luxury goods, and claiming scrolls. A lot of these resources can be claimed in similar ways. There are a few differences. Your water, it's used to move your fisherman pawn additional steps when you take the river action. You can use this to pay to claim revealed oases when performing the claim oases action, and you also will need water to pay for provisions at the end of each season. Next are the dates. You can earn these in multiple ways also, most likely by activating your date orchard or exchanging goods or buying luxury goods and claiming scrolls. Dates are used to pay for scrolls, and they're used to pay to claim revealed oases when performing the claim oases action, and you will also need dates to pay for provisions at the end of each season. Lastly, we have the dinars. These are similar to coins and can be earned in multiple ways, such as crossing a segment on the mosque and palace tracks, also exchanging goods and buying luxury goods and claiming scrolls. You will also need these to pay for provisions at the end of the round and for other things within the game. Next are the scroll tiles. So there's 72 of these. These are gained by activating the madrasa action. They progressively get more expensive but provide better benefits from gray to orange depending on their color. So the least expensive is the gray and the most expensive are orange. And the grays require you to have 1 scholar and spend 1 date. Then you have 21 yellows. They require you to have 3 scholars and spend 1 date. 18 of the pink ones, they require you to have 5 scholars and spend 2 dates. And lastly, those orange, there's 12 of them. They require you to have 7 scholars and spend 3 dates. Next are the luxury good tiles. There's 25 of them. Players are going to acquire these when they activate the souk action and spend the required goods. These will provide resources and victory points. Types of luxury goods in the game are slippers, tagine, daggers, oil lamps, and necklaces. Also, you'll find 12 exchange office tiles. You randomly assign 3 of them during setup. They allow players to exchange goods for resources depending on the current season exchange tile. And there are also 6 of them included for an expansion module. Next are 12 provision tiles. 3 of these are randomly assigned to each player during setup. Players will choose which ones they will be added for each season, and then players must pay the resources on these tiles at the end of the season, or they will lose victory points and all their resources. There are 9 double-sided river tiles. 3 of them are randomly chosen during setup for each season. The player or players who are farthest on the river track will receive the bonus depicted, and during the 3rd season there are bonuses available for 1st and 2nd place. There's 3 of each for each season, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. You'll only be using 1 of these from each season during the game, though. There is a season tracker. It is a figurine of Stefan Feld, a little cardboard cutout with a plastic base. This tracks the seasons of the games, and it's rotated clockwise at the end of each season to determine the starting player for the next season. You also have a round tracker that's passed around at the end of each round within the season. It is a camel figure. It's rotated clockwise at the end of each round to determine the starting player for that specific round. There are 32 oasis tiles. 6 of them are randomly assigned face down to each player's board in the Sahara section. These are revealed as caravan keshes, are deployed, and can be claimed by activating the Sahara action with your assistant. You can purchase any amount of these revealed tiles as long as you have the required resources to spend. You'll also find 1 cloth bag within the game. It's used to randomly assign the city gates and players starting keshes on their supply board. You'll find the rule booklet. This rule booklet includes standard rules, instructions to construct the cube tower. There are a few expansion modules towards the end of the rulebook, and a player reference on the back. You'll also find 1 addendum booklet, and this will have a summary of icons and specific descriptions of the scroll tiles, oasis tiles, desert town tiles, which are part of an expansion, and the description of the river tile benefits. This also has a player reference on it. Alright, we made it through the component list. Now we're going to actually get into playing the game. A lot of these I've already covered, and will just be a refresher on some of those components and how they work. So again, there are 3 seasons made up of 4 rounds each in the game. How the round is divided into 4 different phases. The first phase is called the Select Keshi and Deploy Assistance phase. Simultaneously, all players select those 3 of the hidden Keshis from behind their screen and hold them in their hand. Once all players have done so, they show their selection openly and then deploy their 3 assistants to the sectors of their player board, matching the colors of their selected Keshis. Then one player takes all the selected Keshis from all players and tosses them in the cube tower all at once. After all the cubes have gone down the tower, you're going to sort those by color on that grid, and then you'll move on to the Claim Keshis and Deploy Them phase. After the players have sorted the Keshis in the tower base by color, they split up those Keshis among themselves in turn order. Players take turns claiming up to 2 of those Keshis of a single color at a time, placing them immediately on their corresponding sector of their player board. This continues until all Keshis from the tower's base have been claimed and deployed. Next, in turn order, you'll be doing the Use Your Assistance phase. In turn order, each player uses their 3 assistants in any order they like. For each assistant, the player decides between one of 2 options. They're going to take 1 Keshi of the corresponding sector's color from the common supply and deploy it, gaining the deployment bonus if applicable, or perform that sector's action. If the player has a red water vendor, they're first going to gain 1 water from the supply. And here are the different sector actions. Again, I briefly went over these as we went through the components, but you're hearing it again. So hopefully by the end of this podcast, you'll have a good idea of how Marrakesh plays. Alright, so here are the sector actions you will activate with your assistants. On the green portion, the date orchard, you're going to collect dates equal to the amount of date pickers you have present. If you activate the Sahara brown area, you'll purchase or claim as many revealed oasis tiles as you want and can afford to. Place these on your supply board and receive any bonuses if applicable. If you activate your river, which is the blue area, move your fishermen a space for each fish Keshi present. You may additionally spend any amount of water resources to move your fishermen and an additional space for each water spent. Next up, we have the souk area of your player board. Again, this will use the yellow, purple, and orange Keshis, and you can do 2 things with them. You can exchange goods for resources at the exchange office, or you can purchase luxury goods by spending your goods Keshis. Next is the main square, the Jimma Al-Fanab, which is the pink area. Activating this sector will rotate your spectator disc, and you'll activate any entertainer bonuses multiplied by the number of spectators in that section on the disc. Next, you have the mosque staircase, which is the black area. You move your student pawn forward as many spaces as cleric Keshis you have. If you enter a new segment, you're going to gain 1 dinar, and activate the connection bonuses. If you have reached the end of the staircase, you're going to gain 1 point for each additional movement. Next is the palace staircase, which is white. You're going to move your courtier pawn 1 space forward, as many spaces as noble Keshis you have. If you enter a new segment, you're going to gain 1 dinar and activate the connection bonuses. If you have reached the end of the staircase, gain 1 point for each additional movement. Next up is the madrasa, which is the gray area. You are going to acquire scrolls meeting the scholar Keshi requirement and spending the required dates. Then you will apply any benefits from the scroll. Next is the Medina or beige area of your player board. This intersects all your other sections. What you can do here is purchase city gates from the Medina workshops for each guard Keshi you have at the watchtower, and you will place the city gate on a slot on your player board and gain a matching Keshi and gain any associated points. So obviously the activating your sectors phase is going to be the longest. That is the heart of the game where players are going to be performing their actions. So once all the players have done their 3 actions for the round, you're going to move into the river bonus and end of round phase. All the players who have crossed at least the first rapid on the river track receive a bonus. Then the start player passes the round tracker, which is the camel, to their left neighbor. That player is the start player for the next round. Then you'll move into season scoring and preparation of the next season if it is not the last round. You will go into river evaluation. The player farthest on the river receives the bonus depicted on the season's river tile. And after the 3rd season, the 1st and 2nd place get a reward. Next up, everybody will have to provide for their citizens. Each player must pay the resources on their revealed provision tiles. If a player cannot pay the resources, they lose all their resources and the points shown on their provision tiles. You'll discard the exchange office tile and reveal a new one. You'll place the river tile for the next season on the river. Each player takes 1 keshi of each color and places it behind their player screen. And then you pass the season tracker to the next player in clockwise directions. That player will also take the round tracker as well. After the 3rd and final season, you will go into the end of the game and final scoring. You will score, obviously, the points you gained during the game, but you will have 10 points for each completely filled sector. And what that is it's going to contain 9 total keshis, 8 of the specific color, and then 1 water vendor, which is the red keshi. Each of those gets you 10 points. The oases tiles will score points according to their specific tiles, and the explanation is in the addendum. Remaining resources, every 2 resources and or goods are worth 1 point. And that's it. The player with the most points wins the game. And if there is a tie, the leading player on the palace staircase track breaks it. Next would be the mosque track. And if there's still a tie, you'll have a shared victory. There you go. That's how you play the game Marrakesh. Overall, the game is very simple to play once you get it down. The rules aren't that complicated. So I really don't think this is too heavy of a game for anybody who's used to Euro-style games. I personally love the game and its mechanics. That's why I chose it for one of my episodes. I find it fascinating, and I really enjoy the simultaneous picking of keshis and then having to choose which ones to draft prior to the other opponents. So yeah, that is the gameplay. I'm going to quickly mention some expansion content that is in the deluxe version that I'm aware of. And I do know there are some other expansions that have been put out and are currently coming out within the next year or so. So I'll briefly just explain some of the expansion content. So you can find the expansion 1 are different staircase tiles, which are going to randomize connection bonuses between the mosque and the palace staircase. The next expansion would be the Imam and Sultan. These guys are going to go onto the white and black tracks, and they're going to give discounts to the player farthest on each of the mosque and palace staircases. Expansion 3 just adds the additional exchange offices that provide different resource conversions. Next up is the spectator, which is essentially just the reverse side of the rotating disc on the player board. It just has different amount of spectators on the other side. Next are desert towns, which are similar to the oases tiles. And then that's it for as far as the first 5 expansions. Alright, so now we know what it looks like to play this game, but how do the gears actually turn behind the scenes? We'll take a quick overview of the mechanisms, and we'll close things out here with our final verdict. Let's zoom in on the core mechanisms that hold this entire experience together. Alright, let's highlight some of the specific mechanisms of this game and how they kind of tie into the history of Marrakesh. First up, I'm going to talk about the cube tower. So choosing the specific areas of influence you want to contribute to, then dropping these caches, offers a sense of unpredictability in a market square and socio-political circles. That's kind of the farthest I can go with the theme. You're planning your actions with your assistants, but executing them depending on the pool of available caches. Kind of offers interesting tension between the players. That's one of the things I do enjoy, is picking the caches, the right ones at the right time, the ones that you need, and hoping the other players don't take them. Next is the resource management of the game. Resources can be pretty tight in the game, and you must manage them, especially towards the later rounds where you have a lot of provisions to pay. Managing your water, dates, and dinar resources thematically emulates the scarcity of these valuable resources during this time period. If you're going to spread your influence and impress the Imam, you cannot ignore providing those provisions to others at the end of the round. Next up is the track movements. Ensuring you are leading on the river and mosque and palace track emulates your competition of influence in the city of Marrakesh. This is the bulk of the game. You want to make sure you are getting up these tracks, because these bonuses are going to help you build your engine within the game. So it's key that you try to move up these. And thematically, I believe this is what you're aiming to do. You're trying to build that influence on both of those tracks. Only those who are able to succeed will reap the benefits and gain the ultimate prestige. Next up is discovering the oases in the Sahara. So obviously this is taking place in Marrakesh, which is a city in Morocco in northern Africa, and it's near the Sahara Desert. So much like traversing the real Sahara, players must strive to discover the much needed oases benefits while determining how many resources they are willing to spend to get there. So yeah, during the game you are going to be revealing these oases tiles, and timing that is very important, because you may flip a tile that may not work for you or works great for you. So you may want to try to do this earlier in the game to kind of give you a goal to strive for, but that is at the expense of not doing other actions. So I find that one of my favorite parts of the game is discovering these oases tiles, because it's very important, but you always have other stuff you want to do. And kind of the end game scoring showing up throughout the game is kind of interesting to me. Next up, we are going to look at trading at the souk. So souks are markets, and a lot of what you do at a souk is haggling for goods and trading. And so how this thematically ties is you have these goods caches, and just like real haggling and trading at a souk, players must decide if their current goods that they have are worth the current payout, or you can save those caches up for later and get a higher benefit than more expensive luxury goods. So that's just interesting decision to make throughout the game, is try to go for quick and easy points and get some resource benefits, or save those goods up and get higher payout of victory points. Next on the mechanisms, and it's the last thing I'll bring up as far as mechanisms, is seeking the wisdom of the madrasa. So players are using their scholars to decipher the knowledge of the scrolls to enhance their gameplay. It's important that you do this during the game, because you'll get some ongoing benefits or some nice one-time benefits. I like this thematically. Like, You're learning knowledge or wisdom from these scholars, and it's helping you do better and increasing your influence around Marrakesh. I really do like that portion. When I play this game, I'm usually trying to focus on getting as many scholar Keshis I can get in that sector early, so I can get those nice benefits earlier in the game. So the more scholars you have, the more knowledge is gained, and the better the benefits you'll receive. But this comes at a cost, because you'll have to pay those scholars with dates when you acquire those tiles. That's really all I want to discuss as far as the mechanisms and how those are coming through with the theme. I know I mentioned this before. I really do enjoy this game, Marrakesh. I think if you are into Euro style games, this is a must play at least once to see if you like it. Stefan Feld, he's a renowned designer. A lot of his games are great. One of his most popular is the Castle of Burgundy. I really enjoy that one also. Most of his designs I really enjoy. So yeah, I will say this is definitely one of my favorites though. So let's move on to the final segment of this podcast. Alright guys, we've made it. We've made it to the final verdict section. We are going to get into the thematic scale. So every episode we're going to wrap up by placing our game on the thematic scale, as I call it. We look at how well the game's design actually honors its real world counterpart. The thematic scale ranges from 1 to 5 for mechanical integration, component immersion, narrative evolution, flavor text impact, thematic decisions, the tension and pacing, and finally the overall science and history and integration of the game. So first off, we have the mechanical integration of Marrakesh. This one, it comes in at 3 for me. For the mechanical integration for me, it kind of feels like the theme in general as you're placing the pieces out, but the general mechanisms of choosing your Keshis and assigning your assistants to gain influence in the different aspects of the game, such as the souk or mosque, and the palace and the madrasa, they feel somewhat immersive, but players are going to have to do little stretching to get to this. It's a Euro game at the end of the day, so thematics is usually not a highlight of those, but for a Euro game, I think this does it pretty well. Marrakesh comes in at a 3 for me for mechanical integration. Next up, let's talk about the component immersion. This is going to be a 2. At the end of the day, they're just wooden pieces, but I will say the artwork and presentation, they did a fantastic job here. The board and all the pieces and the scrolls and the tiles, they emulate the aesthetics of ancient Islamic sites. So if you look up pictures of Marrakesh and that type of artwork, they did a fantastic job. But as you drop the Keshis and place pieces across the boards, players will have to stretch their imagination a little bit to feel immersed in the city of Marrakesh. So again, the component immersion comes in at a 2 out of 5 for me on the thematic scale. Let's talk about narrative evolution. This is a given. This is a 1. Lowest of the low. There is no narrative. You're not building a narrative here. If you have a high imagination, I'm sure you could build a story, but the game is not pushing that at you at all. The game doesn't offer any moments for really players to build a narrative. Let's move on. The flavor text impact, this is also a 1. There is no flavor text. It's all artwork, but like I said, the artwork and presentation are great, but the flavor text, it has to be a 1 because there's nothing really there explaining, okay, in the souks, this is what you're doing, or here at the madrasa, this is what's going on. So, yeah, there is no flavor text impact for the theme, especially if you don't know the history of Marrakesh. Hopefully that's changed by now. you're definitely going to have a hard time finding that theme. Let's talk about thematic decisions. The decision making comes in at a 3 for me. It's much like the mechanical integration, choosing your actions for the round and deciding what to do with your keshes and what keshes to take before your opponent. It's emulating similar decisions you may make in this time period, possibly in a competitive market during the history of Marrakesh. So, yeah, I'm going to throw a 3 at that one. You are kind of somewhat haggling at the table by that open draft system. Okay, is the so-and-so going to take this piece, or should I take it before them? Do they need that? So I'm going to give that one a 3. Tension and pacing. The tension and pacing in this game I feel is pretty great. It's fantastic, allowing players to stay immersed in the gameplay. The turns are pretty snappy. They're pretty quick once you know the game. I'm coming in at a 4 on the thematic scale as far as the tension and pacing and how that comes with a theme. So the hustle and bustle of Marrakesh and the markets, all that. I mean, I'm coming in with a 4. The gameplay flows smoothly as the actions are all very, very simple, and there's very little downtime between the players, which is always good. All right, lastly, let's talk about the main topic here, the history and or science. Again, some of these games, I'm going to dive into the science of them. This one more leans on the history, so learning the history and seeing how Stefan Feld integrated different aspects of Marrakesh into a Eurogame shows that even though you're just moving keshes and placing your assistants and bumping tracks and flipping tiles, a story of such an influential city can be told through Euro mechanisms, and that's what he did here. So the ultimate score of thematics, I'm giving it out of 4. Again, with the absence of narrative and flavor text, yeah, players are going to have to take a stretch of the imagination to get there. But for a Euro game and the theme and the artwork, the overall score on the history and how it's integrated into the game with the scrolls and the right luxury goods from the history, I'm giving it out of 4. I think Stefan Feld did a fantastic job using the actual real history of this place. So I mentioned this, I do love the gameplay, so I'm a little biased there. And knowing the thematic integrations now, the story is just going to enhance that experience for me even more. So, yeah, that wraps up the podcast today for Marrakesh. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to roll into some outro notes, and we'll close things up here. All right, that's our time for today on the periodic table of components. I've been your host, Greg. If you enjoyed your time at the table today, please hit that follow button on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to your podcast. Leave a review if you have the time. It'll help the channel grow. You can also find me at Periodic Table Pics on Instagram, where I post pictures of the games I'm playing periodically. I am the Periodic Table of Components on Facebook, and lastly, TPTOC podcast on Blue Sky. So I would love to hear from you guys. If you have any additional information you would like to add, if you have been to Marrakesh, are you from Morocco, or you have any special knowledge that I didn't cover today, I would be very interested in hearing that. Also, I would like to know if you have played this game, if you like this game, all that good stuff. So yeah, reach out to me on Periodic Table Pics on Instagram or TPTOC podcast on Blue Sky. I'll leave all this information in the show notes. I'll be back periodically with more history and science of your favorite board games. I'm really looking forward to diving into some scientific topics here soon. So that's going to be it. Until then, keep rolling, keep learning, and keep building stories around the table. Later.